and it is about the process, struggle, and vital importance of getting started. How should I begin? Nobody tells you that. They show up to your graduation, say a proud congratulations, and for a day it feels like we've done everything. But then the next day comes, and the next. And suddenly it's not exciting, but terrifying as we look out at our lives and realize the time has come, and we're not ready. We stand here on the last piece of the past, looking out at the vast future, ready to jump from the springboard of our education into the world, only to realize that we won't spring that far. We look down to the chasm that separates where we are and where we want to be, and there are no guides, no bridge to get across. And that's when we see, as if for the first time, that our 2 decades spent crammed at desks prepared us only to pass the tests that don't even matter once we're done with them. The reality that our education and our profession are so disconnected that this mess we're in is expected, knocks us to our knees as we fight for footing on the precipice of everything. So how do we begin? I began my book by defining art, because art is a very confusing word for all that it only has 3 letters. You can talk about the arts, as in music, theater, dance, visual art, etc. You can talk about art as in specifically visual art, painting, drawing, or sculpting. Or you can talk about art as in something that someone does particularly well. That's what I'm talking about. The thing is, if you always try and make art, you miss out on everything else you can make. When we're children, this doesn't matter. We make things constantly, all the time. All the teachers here know that. But somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we lose this fearlessness, this constant ability to create. And there are a lot of reasons for this, but I'm focusing in on the problem of the testing culture. I'm talking specifically here about the standardized testing culture, which became really big under Ronald Reagan and A Nation at Risk, and then got even more power under George W. Bush and No Child Left Behind. You can see all the teachers shaking their heads. And if you teach, you know that education is most effective when it's relevant. Actually, most people know this. It needs to be relevant and it needs to be connected to your life for you to care and for you to learn well. And standardized tests are fundamentally disconnected. They were created in boardrooms, not classrooms. And they were created by people who have no real ties to the educational world apart from what happened 40-odd years ago to them. And so testing erases 5 key abilities that we need to just make something. The first is the ability to question, to create, to copy, to try, and to fail. Now, I go into depth in these in the book, but I don't want to focus on the negative and what's been erased. So instead, I'm going to talk about what we can do about it. And again, I have 5 things that I have come up with that have worked for me and that have made me actually write this book. She's over here. Everyone can come look afterwards. The first is to figure out how to start even when we're not ready. And this is the opposite of what tests teach us. Right? Because tests prepare you, they prepare you all year to take this one thing, you've got one chance to do really, really well, otherwise you fail and no one loves you. It's true. The second thing is to build a supportive community, and this is surprisingly hard to do, especially in this age where people travel across the world, leave their hometowns, and never come back. The third is to find mentors, whether it's people one-on-one, your classmates, your parents, your teachers, or people from movies, books, paintings. The fourth is to develop a simple, creative habit, right? Because creating something can be nauseatingly anxious. But if you do a little bit, just a tiny bit, every day, then over time you actually make this huge thing. And my example is that I've been journaling every night since March 22nd, 2008. That's 5 years. That's 1,890 odd days. Every night it feels like I'm doing nothing. What's the point? Why do I care that I went to work this morning and I taught these kids? But you know what? I can tell you exactly what I did on January 1st, 2011. And over time, every little night, I created 19 books. And no one will probably ever read those. But because I created 19 books, writing one book wasn't so scary. I've written 1,890 pages. Writing 100, not such a big deal. The last piece is to find whatever it is that makes you lose track of time. A lot of people have different words for this. It could be being in the zone, being in the flow, and I don't have a fancy word, but for me, as someone who's hyper-aware as a teacher of everything that's happening around me all the time, when I look at the clock and realize that 5 hours have gone past and I don't know where they went, I know that I'm doing what I'm meant to do. This is about being passionate. And being passionate is something that our culture has really warped, much like being in love. I have another poem that explains this. Finding passion is a lot like falling in love, but I don't mean that in a good way. I mean that in a gut-wrenching, heart-aching, throat-clenching, spirit-breaking way. They tell you how it should happen, how it should feel. They say you'll be swept off your feet, dumped in a fairy tale, and then you'll be happy. But the thing is, passion isn't something you follow. It follows you. Dogging your step from now until oblivion, driving you forward day after day to do what you love, even when you hate it. And there will be days when you hate it. Because passion isn't happiness, it's drive. It's a drive that runs so deep you can never turn it off, that can be so miserable you wish you could tear it out of you, but you can't because it is you. Because passion isn't only falling in love, it's the daily toil of being in love. It's the afternoon arguments, the evenings of silence, the late night tears. It's the creeping doubt, the endless effort, the constant demand. It's the time you look at your lover standing there by the teapot you were arguing about 2 days ago and you think, oh, this is what everyone was talking about. And for that day, love comes freely. And passion is easy. But those days, the ones when clouds fly down from the sky just so that you can walk on them, do not come often. So cherish them. Remember them when you have to show up the next day, even though the clouds are gone, because passion is worth working for. It is a fire that runs through your veins, not caring whether it's warming you or eating you alive, but filling you either way. It is a lifetime of dedication with sparks of inspiration that are almost like the fairy tales, but better. This is what I'm passionate about. And this book, I actually have a physical copy now. This is my something. And damn, it feels good to actually hold it. I'm hoping to use this to build a career as a writer, a teacher, and a speaker about the importance of reconnecting art and education to daily life, about making it relevant again. And as such, I have a lot of things planned out that I won't go into about what I'm going to do afterwards. What I will go into is that I have a book launch on June 2nd, and you should all come. It's at Union Press, and there will be music and art and lots of other Leslie things. And copies of yes. I'll probably wear one, just for you. And it will have an actual cover. This is the cover of my book, which was wonderfully designed by Eli from Union Press. And on that note, I'm going to close with the last poem in the book, which is titled, What's the Point? Why make a book that may never be read? Make a painting that may never be seen or run a mile when there's no race? Because when the grades are gone and the directions are done, we are the only ones left to hold ourselves accountable. But accountability is something we haven't been taught. Because everyone was too busy directing us, too busy filling our minds with answers to a now forgotten test to teach us how to do what's untested, how to get started. And by the time we actually try, we've been tested so many times, prepared for so long that we expect our first attempt to be art. And when all we make is something, our hearts are crushed. And uncertainty starts us down the path of just doing what we have to do to get survive. We start thinking it's enough to just survive. But I want more than to survive my life. I want to create my life. And even though creating something is uncomfortable, it's not impossible, as long as we appreciate each piece along the way, each small something that takes us one step farther, that makes us just a little bit better. Because without the stepping stones, we will never get across. We need to celebrate everything we do as an accomplishment in and of itself, even if it's only one part of a larger picture. That one stone is worth all the effort on its own. So don't make art. Just make something.